This is life. You know, when I go to Little League games and I watch people misbehave, parents, coaches, whatever, I do not sit on the bench. I walk up to them and say, who do you think you are? These are children, your children. They do not deserve this abuse. I don't care what the score is. I don't care if they catch a fly ball or boot a grounder. It doesn't matter. Let them be children. And I do it at talent auditions and scholarship competitions. We make too much of this juvenile success. What the hell does it matter to a child? It matters as an adult. What the heck is a successful child? Let me tell you, if you're a successful child, your career is over at 18, then what? Now what? The good bet is to bet on a productive, sane, 40 or 50-year adulthood. That's the bet. That's where the money ought to go. It's impossible pressures for children. They're not allowed to create and be in check with themselves and their friends what they want to be. We can't put them in cookie cutters. And maybe we need wide open spaces again. Maybe we need land with no fences. And not so many organized sports and gymborees. And organized sports, 3/4 of which, you know, all the kids who participate in organized sports in this country quit by the age of 12. Never to play that sport again. Because they're disgusted with it. Now I know in my life I continued to play baseball into my 30s. I loved the game. I played with a bunch of garbage men and lawyers and stuff in Connecticut. Because the game is fun. Did you play ball? What? Do you play?
I was thinking about my personal photography.
Yeah, no, it's strange. I coached Little League for years and years, and I loved it, except for one thing. The parents. Now, you know, I can tend to be intimidating on occasion, and I hone that especially for the parents. Trust me.
I believe you.
So that let the kids play. Let the kids play. And I wouldn't tolerate a parent on the practice field, period.
Well, Bob, going back to Holmes, Dennis Holmes, with Janie, what was the difference between her and some of these parents like Paul's talking about?
Well, Janie Holmes is an incredible woman. I mean, she was the most beautiful, fun stage mother that you could ever imagine. She, you know, and Dennis was fabulous. Dennis knew his lines every morning. He was a fun kid. And Janie was always on the set, and she always said that she has 3 children. John Smith, Bob Fuller, and Dennis. Really, that's the way she was. And it was a delight to have this woman on the set. And I know there's been problems with stage mothers throughout the years. You can read about it in all the books. But not Janie. She was a doll.
And that's the difference in a
And
lot
Janie's
of ways.
going to have a birthday coming up pretty quick. She's 89 years old. And she's just
Still,
a doll. I love her.
she's wonderful, and she's still out there. She's
Yeah.
still pushing, and she's still going at it.
Well, there are good ones. But even the good ones can be faced with overwhelming pressures. Mary Grady is a case in point. This family's family name was O'Grady. Don O'Grady, who was on the Mouseketeers. Didn't change his name until after the Mouseketeers. And Mary Grady became known as one of the best kids agents in town. And she had a daughter, Lonnie O'Grady, who's on AIDS and Up. So she has one child in the business who is an accomplished musician and had years of success, and another daughter who committed suicide after alleged success. It's a roll of the dice anyway. It is raising kids.
Well, we'd like to thank you for all your service.
Oh, well, I appreciate it.
Thank you. time. This is your final time to ask questions this year, and there will always be next year. And we'd like to thank Mary, or Donna. It's Donna this one, isn't it? Not Mary, it's Donna. Have to think where we are and what time of day it is. She leave?
She just went out the door.
She just went out the door?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
All right. Anyway, we'll thank her later. But it's your time. Raise your hands here. Let's get your questions in. Remember, this is it for this year. Come on, school's in. Let's go. Yeah, you're in school here. I need questions. Yes.
Bob, at one point you talked about going on set, going to the commissary with a star who knew everyone who worked in the commissary, not just the celebrities. Who was that?
Oh my God, it was Dan Duryea.
Oh, boy.
Thank
That's
you.
a fabulous story about Dan. In fact, Dan was in the original, the first episode of Letterman. And it's the first time I met him. And we met in wardrobe the day before we were going to start the shoot. We happened to wind up in wardrobe at the studio at the same time. And I met Mr. Duryea. My God, I mean, I was enthralled. This is a giant motion picture star, a fabulous actor. This is 1959. And I'm going to meet this man. I'm 26 years old or something like that at that time. Might have been 22. Anyway, just a little slip in there. So anyway, I meet Dan, and the wardrobe guy introduced us to each other, and Dan said, you know, we're going to start shooting tomorrow. Would you have lunch with me at the commissary? And it's the green room at Universal Studios, which is strictly for the VIPs. And that's the head of the studio, Lou Wasserman, and all the actors that are, you know, the big stars on the show. So I went in that lunch. We walked into the commissary, and there's 12 waitresses that work in this place. And Dan knew every one of their names as he walked in. It was unbelievable. And they all came up, they almost bowed down to Dan. But he knew all their names, and I said, my God, this has got to be one super guy to be that kind of guy. And I sort of tried to emulate that myself a little bit and know all these girls. But that was interesting to see.
Yeah, that also reminds me, I did a guest starring spot on Bobby Conrad's High Mountain Rangers. Well, if anybody knows about, I mean, he's got a bit of a reputation, okay? However, and Chuck Courtney was the coordinator on that. Yeah, so he got me on the show. And so we're up at Lake Tahoe and filming this episode of High Mountain Rangers. And we broke for lunch. And, you know, I'd heard all the stories about, you know, about this chip off my shoulder. Billy Bob Bad. And we go over to the lunch area where they've got everything set up, the tables, the tent, the serving line. And I'm walking, got my tray, in line. Who's serving? The entire crew and cast. Bobby Conrad. I was like, oh, this is a man. He took care of his crew. He took care of his cast. Then he ate. And he sat there with a little apron on, and he's dishing out, you know, you feel whatever you wanted. And I could not have been more impressed. And later that afternoon, now I had been hired on the gig from our good buddy Chuck Courtney because they wanted someone who could act and ride, you know, kind of like walking and chewing gum. And because my character had to rear the horse, fall off, and get eaten by a bear. Okay, everything was cool except the eaten by the bear part. And had a real bear too. And so I'm on this horse, and they've got this horse rigged with a high spade bit. You know what that is, okay? Now that means that if you give him any rein at all, a high spade goes way up in the top of his mouth, and it hurts like hell. So a little tug, and he's going to go straight up. I fall off the back, the bear goes chomp, chomp. Say everything but the bear part. And so I'm supposed to be hunting this bear, and I'm dragging a haunch of cow. Dallied off on my saddle, back about 25 or 30 feet. And I'm trolling for bear. Well, that's illegal. So up come two of his rangers galloping up. They come up from my right quarter. And as they get just past the haunch, camera's over here on my left. They cross behind me over the rope. One of them does. One went behind the haunch, the other one went over the rope, which is taut, hauling about a 70-pound haunch of cow. Well, his horse hits the rope, it goes whackity, 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 whackity on my horse's butt. Well, the rodeo was on. Of course, it's a good thing that I was a saddle bronc rider. And so I undallied. Then first I said, "You want to go hard and fast?" I said, "No, I'll just dally." So I undallied the rope, threw it in the air, knowing that I couldn't touch the reins like this, because if I do, he's going to go straight over backwards. So I'm reaching out way out here, and I'm tucking his nose back to my knee. We go in a circle, and the tighter we go, the slower he gets, and all of a sudden he quits bucking. Bobby comes up to this kid, one of the co-stars, literally jerked him out of the saddle and say, "You don't eat lunch, you get out there and after you learn how to ride." Said, "You could have killed this man." Now, had been somebody that didn't know how to ride, yeah, and it happens. But I'm sitting there, he cared about me, been thrown off of one or two, yes ma'am. But he cared that had it been somebody besides me, they could have been hurt badly. And like I say, I was just very impressed with Bobby Conrad, and I don't care what his reputation is, I consider him to this a friend.